What's up, friend? Welcome back to the God Empowered podcast. If you've been a listener for a little while, you might have noticed a slight change that we've made, which is changing up the podcast title, what we name it, and what we describe it as. Before, if you were a dedicated listener, it was called Empowered Mission. That is still the name of the overarching brand, by the way. But we just decided to shift the name to God Empowered, specifically for the podcast, because I personally really wanted this podcast to better reflect the purpose of it, the result that we want you to get just by listening to every single episode. And the term that I found myself that I kept using was God empowered, God empowered, God empowered. So that's why we changed it. We switched up, and it's my goal for you that in every episode you listen moving forward, it continues to transform you into the God-empowered woman, the God-empowered man, the God-empowered entrepreneur, the God-empowered mama that God is calling you to be right here, right now in this season. So let's dive in by continuing to uplift your spirit with today's episode. Now, today's episode is going to feel a little heavy, but it's my hope that it's going to uplift you with the solution to that heaviness. And that brings us to today's topic, which is how to deal with the struggle of depression as an entrepreneur. I want to start off by saying that this is a very real feeling. It can be a very serious season of your life if you are currently facing or have faced, or maybe you're scared to face depression in the future. And the reason why I find that depression it's important to find solutions for, and it's highlighted in anyone's life, depending on what they're currently going through. But I specifically want to talk about depression in entrepreneurs because I see it more often than you think. I have worked with so many high-level and aspiring or new entrepreneurs who are going through a plethora of mental health struggles. Now, why is that? Why is that? It's because when you decide to take that leap of entrepreneurship, it can feel very lonely. It can feel very intimidating. There is the constant comparison game that your mind wants to play. And because of that, it's the constant nagging of insecurities that play in your mind. And on top of that, it's the burnout that happens. When you are literally working on taking an idea that does not exist in this world and making it exist, there is a whole journey, all the tasks, all the things that come with that. And all of that I just mentioned can lead to depression, and you might not even realize that you have it. You might just have moments where you feel so down, you feel so low, you feel so sad, and maybe you're just not able to fully analyze why that is. Maybe you just think that it's a normal part of this entrepreneur journey and this big change that you made or desire to make. But I'm here to tell you, friend, although you're not alone in that feeling of depression that you might be feeling, please know that there are solutions for it. It doesn't have to be your normal. It doesn't have to be the usual. There are solutions to fight your way out of it and to become the beautiful, confident, God-empowered entrepreneur, leader, person that God is calling you to be. So let's walk through a couple of steps that I want to share that can really help you get past, to fight through, to work your way through those depressive thoughts that you might have with God by your side and come out of it on the other end feeling more joyful, more content, more at peace, and more confident than you've ever been before. And I'm just going to warn you, this is a journey, okay? This is not an overnight thing. How do I know this? Because I've been through it. I have been through it. I'm talking crying all the time, questioning everything, identity issues, feeling like I want to quit, feeling like I want to give up, feeling like my voice is not heard. And I'm just talking to silence, like I'm trying to talk about my business or this world, or I'm trying to work hard in it and nobody's hearing me. And I just felt so alone and by myself. These feelings are real, man. They really are. They really are. And they might come. So let's talk about how to fight through that and how to come out of it on the other side. The very first thing I want to say, be honest with God about it. Be honest with God about your anger, your frustrations, your sadness, where you feel where you're lacking, where you feel like nothing is good enough. The reason why I say be honest with God about it is because God is not someone whose feelings you hurt. Like sometimes I've noticed that when we pray, we try to be so gentle and at peace and calm. And of course, that's okay, right? Like God is a loving God. And when you love someone, like genuine love, you don't approach it with anger. You don't approach it with frustrations. But when circumstances are there, you might get into an argument with a loved one, right? Because you're just so frustrated. I'm not saying get into an argument with God. I'm just saying be honest with him about your feelings, about where you're really at, because he already knows. He's just waiting on you to talk to him about it. Rather than acting like those feelings don't exist, or rather than dismissing them, or rather than pushing them to the side, you are being open, aware, and willing to bring it to the foot of Jesus and saying, you know what, God? I don't know what to do with all this. I'm a mess. I'm frustrated here. I'm lacking here. I don't know what's going on here. I am confused. And you know what, God? I'm angry. He already knows where your heart's at. So openly talk to him about it. Be honest with God about it. Because when you do, you take down that wall and you make space for God to come in and listen, to come in and to hear where you're honestly at. This is a huge trust thing. Think about it. You don't share your struggles or how deep of issues you have with just anybody. You share it with your close friends, your close family. You share it with people you trust. And you opening up to God about what you're really going through opens up a whole new level of trust. And that, my friend, is what God wants. He wants your trust so that it can produce a new level of faith, which will then produce a new level of obedience in you so that God can do a miracle in and through your life and in and through your business. So first, be honest with God. I literally talk to God like he's my best friend. I do. I'll be like, God, I don't know why this happened today. I'm so confused. Like, why is this? And I just go on and on. And God is probably just looking down at me like, okay, just nodding his head. But I love it though. I love it because it opens up a very truthful communication path between me and him. And I encourage you to create that path between you and him as well. The second thing that I want to say when it comes to working your way through and out of depression as an entrepreneur so that you can come out on the other side is to be attentive to what God might be asking you to let go of or to start doing. The only way that you are able to be more attentive to what God might be speaking over your life is to first go back to that first step and be honest and create that communication channel between you and him. Then when you do, and you do things like I mentioned of talking to him like he's your best friend, opening up the Bible, taking the time to close your eyes and meditate as if you are sitting down with just you and God. When you do those things, when you're talking to God, you can now open up your mind and your spirit to be attentive to what God might have to say back. And this can take some time to try to hear. And maybe I'll do another podcast episode on that later when it comes to how you can develop the ability to hear more of God's voice and what he's asking you to do. But I believe it just starts here, just being willing to be attentive to it. Because God might be asking you to let go of something that you don't want to let go of. And little do you know, that something is the trigger that causes your depression. He might tell you to let go of social media because when you're on social media, you play the comparison game and that causes triggers towards your depression. So he might say, hey, I need you to let go of this for a few months. He might tell you to let go of this task or this side project and to instead focus on this other one, even if you don't want to. He might tell you that because he knows what's best for you. He knows how to help you work through the depression that you're going through. Now, here's the thing. In order to be attentive to either stop doing or start doing what God is asking you, you have to be willing to take a step back. Take a step back. Give yourself a break. Give yourself a breather. Give yourself a renewal day, a Sabbath, a day of rest. And I don't mean rest where you're just on the couch watching your favorite Netflix show. I mean, sure, you could do that for an hour. I do it all the time. I love me some Netflix. I love my shows. But taking genuine time to step back, tune into God, journal, and be aware of what he might be telling you. Take a step back and get attentive. Get attentive. You will discover so much. You will discover out of that day of that break and being attentive to God, you will discover things that he is asking you to either stop doing or to start doing so that you can come out on the other side of depression and start walking more in the entrepreneurial calling that God has over your life. And honestly, you have to be willing to do what he is asking of you. Because what he might ask of you could be really difficult. He might say, hey, I need you to pause your business for 3 months. That, as an entrepreneur, would be really hard to do. But when we learn to be obedient to what we're hearing from God in our life and in our business, we always end up coming to the very truthful fact that his way was best, not our own. So that's the second thing. Okay? First, be honest with God about your feelings. Second, take a step back and be attentive to what God might be asking you to stop doing or to start doing. Third thing, ask for help, but ask for the right kind of help. I cannot express that enough, the importance of asking for the right kind of help. Because we hear all the time, like, oh, if you're going through depression, if you're having a lot of insecurity and anxiety that's eating your life up, you know what? Get help. Ask for help. Yeah, you should. But the key words we're missing there is the right kind of help. What do I mean by right kind? I am talking about God-empowered help. I am talking about not just any therapists, but Christian therapists. I am talking about not just any friend, but actual faith-based mentors. Why am I highlighting that? Because you want to make sure that you are getting help from people that keep God at the center. You are getting help from people that maybe have been through similar fires that you are currently going through, and they got out of that fire with the help of God right by their side. Why? Why God? Why is that so essential when it comes to the right kind of help that you should be receiving? Because God is the solution every single time. It is really difficult to try to get out of anxiety, insecurity, depression, childhood traumas without God. Because you might be able to do it. You'll get out of that insecurity, you'll get out of that identity issue, you'll get out of that depression. But will it sustain? Will it sustain? Eventually, those thoughts will come back. Eventually, those feelings will come back. Eventually, you'll realize that maybe you have not fully healed and you are still being triggered by certain things. The only solution is God. It's his way. And I say that with full confidence because I have lived it. I have tried going my way, my own version of healing. Nothing ever worked. Nothing was ever fulfilling. Nothing was ever good enough. And it's not supposed to be. Nothing is supposed to fulfill you except for God. That's how he created us. He created us in his own image. He created us to originally be with him. So when we are without God, our human nature is to literally feel that longing for fulfillment. And the only thing to get that fulfillment is to go back to the person that originally created you in the first place, who paved the way to fulfill you by doing life with you. Get the right kind of help. Christian therapists, believers that are mentors, close friends that stand on a godly foundation. Get that kind of help, because any other help, you're going to be standing on a wavering, wishy-washy, unstable foundation. Whereas getting the right kind of help, you will be standing on a strong, solid, powerful foundation that will sustain you for the rest of your life and the rest of your entrepreneur journey. The last thing that I want to say when it comes to working your way through and out of depression within your business is to do weekly check-ins with yourself. I think a lot of times we bypass this. We get so caught up in the daily and the weekly hustle of the tasks and the projects and the launches that we're doing as entrepreneurs that we forget to really ask ourselves, how am I doing? Like, am I really even enjoying this? Am I doing okay? How do I feel right now in this moment? There have been so many times where I felt like a surface level, I was okay. But then when I really took the time to sit down from my busy day, close my eyes and ask and try to be more aware of my body and my spirit and my heart and my mind and ask myself where I'm at, how am I really doing? I will surprise the heck out of myself. I'll be like, I'm actually really anxious right now. I'm actually really scared. I'm actually feeling nervous about this thing. And I start to become more aware of how I'm really doing just by doing that frequent check-in with myself. And the reason why these frequent check-ins are so essential is because when you do that, you gain awareness of where you're really at. And then from there, you can attach a solution to that awareness. Now, remember, I said God is always going to be the solution, but we can get more specific within the kind of solution God might want for us right there in that moment. So for example, if you do a weekly check-in with yourself and you're like, man, I'm not feeling all that great. I'm feeling super anxious. Start thinking about, what do you need right now? What does your spirit need in this moment? What does your mind need in this moment? Is there something that you need to stop doing today? Is there something that you need to let go of today? Is there something that you need to add on instead of doing XYZ today? You want to ask yourself those questions and really give yourself a game plan so that you can attach a godly solution to whatever that weekly check-in result is. So for example, if my weekly check-in, if I'm like, oh, I'm anxious, I'm actually not feeling all that great, and I don't want this to lead down a funnel of depression, then I start asking myself and I start praying to God, okay, what do I need to do? How can I solve this right now? And that might mean different things for me. I might go on a prayer walk. I might be like, you know what? I have a ton more tasks to do today, but I'm going to cut my day short because I desperately need it. It might be, you know what? Let me open up my Bible and go outside on my balcony and just read the good word for a little minute and meditate on it. It might mean, you know what? Let me just call my friend. Let me call my Christian community. Let me call my mentor. Let me just talk. It might be, you know what? I just need a break. Let me watch a show for a second. Like, ask yourself these questions. And I'm saying weekly check-ins, but it could be daily too. This can really help ensure that you are aware of where you're really at as an entrepreneur in your business right now, and attach a solution to it now rather than later so that you can get to the root of the problem, deal with it now, instead of pushing it off and allowing it to funnel and dig a deep, dark hole of depression that now you don't know how to get out of. So I encourage you to start doing that. Start doing that day by day, week by week, moment by moment. Do those check-ins. So in summary, my friend, in order to work your way through out of depression as an entrepreneur, and honestly, just as for anyone that's looking to do that, talk to God about how you're really feeling. Open up that communication between you and Him. Take a step back and be attentive to what God might be speaking over your heart in regards to what you should start doing or stop doing. Ask for the right kind of help. Find Christian mentors, Christian therapists, find small groups or a healthy community at your church. Find believers who are mentors. And then lastly, do frequent check-ins with yourself. Ask how you're really doing. And then once you're aware of how you're really doing, you can start working with God on the solution that you should immediately attach to it. As I mentioned, I know that this is not an overnight thing. This is a journey. It takes time to train your brain, to train your heart, to train your spirit out of the season of depression that you might be in. But the most important thing is to partner with God on it so that He can come in, offer a helping hand, and work through this with you in your life and in your business. You do not have to stay in depression. There is a whole nother side where you can come out God empowered, confident, peaceful, and more joyful than you've ever been. I promise you, I have seen it. I've seen it within myself and I've seen it with other people. So I know that it can happen for you too. Please know that you are never alone. This podcast community and what we talk about in these episodes is here for you. You can also feel free to reach out to me anytime if you have something on your mind or if you want to talk about anything specific that you might be dealing with. I'm on Instagram at Angel Marie Official. That's probably the best way to try to reach me. But yeah, just know you're not alone. You are never alone. And just know that the solution to depression, it's right there. And you can access it. You can start the process of accessing it today. Thanks so much for tuning in to this episode of the God Empowered Podcast. I'm so excited to continue this journey of life with you, this journey of reaching mental and financial freedom with you and being able to do it God's way. We'll see you in the next episode, friend.